The Jim and Terry Show, coming to you from a rather dark and foreboding Hobbit Hole studio this morning.
Start spreading the news.
Is that real news or
New York,
fake news? New York? Yeah, okay. We start spreading what kind of news? What are we going to talk about to start?
We're such great podcast hosts because we come here completely unprepared.
We have no idea.
And both of us look like we didn't have enough sleep last night.
We slept in our clothes.
And none of us partied. None of us partied. And I had a great breakfast, though, Guatemala or what do you call it? Avocado. And this isn't a repeat show. This is, again, he gave me avocado
2 weeks in a row,
twist.
I changed one ingredient. Did you want to know what the secret ingredient was?
Yes, I do.
I added a bit of cumin in it.
Oh, cumin. I was going to say cumin. And I do have
I knew it was on the tip of your tongue.
I do have cumin in my spice shelf.
Oh, there you go. All right, we're going to start spreading some news. What is the news? Well, I couldn't resist following some news. The first one I would like to just rehearse because it's rehearsing history. I'm interested in bookends. I'm interested in things that are parallel, things that I can say, that was then, this is now. Can you see the difference?
You need to
Spin back.
You need to watch Meadows' podcast. It's. Have you not heard anything about it?
No.
It's called Deja News.
Oh, Deja News.
Yeah, and it's about that. It's about repeating history and stuff. Like, look, this happened here and here it is again. Anyways.
Well, the repeating I'm going to go back is 5 years ago, almost to the week, almost to the day, Trump made his famous Helsinki visit where he was buddy-buddy with Putin. And he was asked a question by an MSNBC reporter, Jonathan Lemire, who I do follow. And the question was, will you tell Putin to stop meddling in elections, in American elections? And he, of course, said he would believe Putin, not his own CIA or FBI.
Why would he lie?
And
That's when he looked at him and said that. Why would he lie?
That is still echoing in my consciousness, my awareness.
Not with Trump's following, obviously. They don't care.
No, they don't care about truth.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was 5 years ago. And I'm also concerned with the NATO one because that meeting in Helsinki was preceded by the meeting at the NATO headquarters where Trump, again, this is in my mind indelibly etched because I'm very curious about these things, Trump threatened to disband NATO.
Or pull out of it.
Out of it.
He can't dismantle it, but he can pull out of it.
Yeah, he can pull out of it.
And totally wreck it.
Yeah, let Europe be responsible for its own security. And I remember that speech as well. And that only goes as a chaser to the introduction to Trump on the world stage, which was when he was I think it was in that NATO meeting where he bulldozed his way through and chest puffed his way. Do you remember when he pushed the guy out of the way? And get to the front and straighten his tie and look at me, look at me. So all these things, it's hard to believe America survived that presidency.
Yeah, well, my concern is, and we may get on to other things, folks, so don't change the channel, but my concern is if he ever became president again, that's just... he doesn't like Canada. He's made that incredibly clear. He thinks we've used and abused the United States. So he's made that clear. He just don't like anybody. It's just America, and that's it.
It is.
And that becomes dangerous.
Yeah.
It was so funny because I think I just tripped upon it. There's an American podcaster, a young guy, and he a couple of times now I've seen him, he talks about Canada. And in this particular case, he said, I didn't know they had anything to do with space. And then, of course, we have a huge history in space, one of them being the ISS wouldn't have been built if it hadn't been for Canadarm1 and Canadarm2 assembling it. And you learned other things, like the Canadarm runs on about the same amount of energy it takes to light a light bulb.
What?
Yeah, I was that was our Hatfield guy was the
Chris
narrator.
Hatfield.
Yeah, he was narrating it, but all the achievements Canada did in space, and how long we've been in it, even like one of the first observatories in North America in Toronto or whatever it was at 1840, the University of Toronto, I
Yes,
guess,
yes.
Observatory.
The
And
Dunlop Observatory.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Or was? Yeah.
I used to drive by with my my family used to go north, and we used to drive by and say, "What is that? Looks like it's from a sci-fi movie." Well,
Yeah.
of course, we're looking up, waiting for the UFOs to 1950s.
And now it's like
yeah.
buried in a subdivision.
Now, yeah, and there's so much light. It's a useless observatory. Yeah, how did you get onto that? Because I'm talking about bookending.
Because you're dealing with Jim.
Okay, ADHD. Here we go. Where did we go? I don't know. Where are we going?
Squirrel.
I don't know that. But here we are, and we're talking about current events. So that was the bookends of the Biden trip this week to Vilnius, and that's in Lithuania, for the NATO summit. And then looking back to say Trump and his NATO, same thing, meeting. President, that was then, this is now. And what a difference. And Trump always said, remember the famous speech at the United Nations when Trump said, "They're not laughing at us now," in the audience? The audience, it's that the UN started laughing at him, and he didn't get it.
No, well, he's so set on his way. But I mean, why shouldn't he be? I mean, he's like a rock star that can put out anything.
And
because
everybody
they
will
still
say
have,
it's great.
Well, he has 58% of support with the GOP to be the leader. And he's made all kinds of records in his sitting, indictments and everything else. So he'll probably be the first president to lead the country from a cell.
I hope so. But let's continue moving on. That was then, this is now theme, or Rachel Maddow's Deja News. So 5 years ago, we had the Trump fiasco with Putin. We have the Biden reading the riot act to Putin, saying, "You thought this, now look what you've got."
Yeah,
And
well,
those
two countries have joined NATO, and for those who still don't understand that NATO doesn't take over countries. You have to apply, go through a process, and is democratically voted on. That's why it took so long for Sweden, because Turkey didn't want them to be a part of it, but they were eventually convinced, and now Sweden's a part of NATO. All this because, why, folks? Listen, please, audience. It's because Russia is an aggressor. It takes over countries. Ask Estonia. Ask all of those countries.
Lithuania, Latvia.
Yeah. They were taken over against their
Poland.
will by the advancing Soviet Union. And why? Because the Soviet Union loves them or thinks it's their historical right? Not really. It's because of the resources those countries hold, and they want the money. So it's same as everything. So please, when you think that NATO is taking over these countries, NATO doesn't take over anything. It's a defense alliance. And countries ask to join them.
Okay.
I'm sorry to go off on that, but still people are thinking it's
okay,
some
I'm
sort
still
of an
going on. That was
advancement.
then, this is now. So we got Biden, Trump, we got that was then, this is now. The world isn't laughing at us anymore. And you saw pictures of the shaking hands, all the smiles, whereas you take a look at the Trump meetings with international dignitaries, it was gloom and doom. He was the thug boss in the room, and you never knew what he was going to say or do that was inappropriate.
Well, he is
So
like a thud boss. Look at the Chancellor of Germany back then.
Yes, Angela Merkel.
She basically, you could see her just.
Yep.
I don't know if she scolded him or she did something, but I mean.
I hope she did, but it wouldn't
And
be worthwhile.
then
anyway.
the famous gathering was like France, I think Germany and Canada. All the leaders are talking, and they're talking.
And
about
he wasn't
Trump.
there. They were
And
talking about him.
They're talking about him.
Okay. That was then, this is now. I wanted to cover that was then, this is now, and talking about the FBI, because the Republican Party was the party of law and order, much like the Conservative Party in Canada. The cornerstone of law and order is the FBI, the CIA, the Department of Justice, that kind of institutional law and order. Now we've got an embarrassing interview with the FBI Director, Christopher Wray. And I'm saying embarrassing because, again, you could predict who's going to say what and what the tone, the tenor, the appearance was going to be like. It's an embarrassment that the Republican Party has become, what do they call it, a clown car show or something?
I don't know
that?
what it is, but I agree with
Matt
you.
Gaetz, what an awful display. Comer, what an awful display. There wasn't one, well, there was one Republican who was truly a vestige from the past, made me think there are the ones and twos out there who are fiscal conservatives.
Well, all those who think the guy's in bed with the Democrats, just look at the record. He was appointed all by Republicans on all his positions.
This is Christopher Wray.
Christopher Wray is a Republican, or was maybe up until now, but he was a Republican.
Doesn't matter which way he votes.
Well, the thing
doesn't
is
matter
is
his
that
party
it
affiliation.
shouldn't.
No,
and that's
You're
what
right.
he was trying to make a point.
Yep.
You think I'm after Trump? I'm not after anybody.
Justice
Just
must
doing my
be
job.
bipartisan. Justice cannot be based on one party, one political allegiance. Justice must be one for all.
Yeah.
And that's why
we're having a problem seeing that now, of course, with
Yes.
the GOP that refuses to even address anything.
they've got the majority in the House of Representatives, in the Congress. They've got the majority. They have not passed, as far as I know, one piece of legislation of significance and consequence to the American people, whereas the Biden administration in 2 years has got more done than 4 years of Trump. I rest my case. That was then, this is now. They were laughing at America during the Trump years. They're not laughing now. Welcome back, America. Welcome Joe Biden to the world stage in leadership. And to put a Canadian spin on it, welcome Canada to the world stage.
We're going to have a talk about what happens should somebody have health issues and cannot be in
Well,
position.
there are processes. So
Well, there's all kinds of processes. I'm just saying a lot of the processes that take the opportunities are not really smiled upon at this particular time. But that's another show, I guess.
not sure where you're going with that,
Well,
but we will stay tuned.
We've got RFK.
The Jim and
all the
Terry
rest of
Show. We will be back with more. What? Politics? If Jim has his way. Bye bye,
it.
friend.
Me? What?